Some talent are reportedly happy that Vince McMahon is back in WWE. We've got an update on Kota Ibushi's future, and the top heel and face internal rankings on SmackDown have been revealed. Stay tuned for all the deets. So kicking things straight off with the news that some talent backstage are reportedly happy with the fact Vince is back in WWE. Now this is quite surprising.
Oh yeah,
considering there was a lot of stories kind of leaking out here and there, and obviously you got to take a lot of it with a pinch of salt. But a lot of people concerned very heavily about the return of Vince, especially after everything that went on in and around his exit, or his initial exit from the company. But this is in a report from PW Torch. Wade Keller has said that he spoke to two wrestlers backstage in WWE who are pro Vince McMahon over Triple H. He said that the people he's been speaking to are at least happy that Vince was back contributing to creative. Keller also said that wrestlers I talked to directly liked Vince better, but they also indicated that they're not alone and that there are people who are happy Vince is back. It's natural that some wrestlers would think that they were getting a better push under Vince McMahon than Paul Levesque, because every booker is going to have their favorites that they like a little more than others, and those people are going to get a boost, and the other will be like, hey, I think I was in a better position under Vince. Some of it's just that. It's purely based on self-interest that they were getting a better push. And I think, when you do look at it from that standpoint, it's not entirely surprising. Vince has a very specific style of wrestling presentation associated with him, right? It's began to change in a way where people started to get quite excited about it under Triple H. And you got to think that maybe what worked for Vince creatively in here isn't going to work for everybody else. So some people are going to maybe not be quite as featured, or not look quite as strong, or not have, X, Y, and Z attached to them anymore, whereas, new talent are going to. But if Vince is indeed contributing to creative, as the rumblings are suggesting, and this quite openly
suggesting that folk are happy with it as well.
But, it may be that Vince is working in more of a pitching capacity now. We've heard that he apparently supposedly doesn't have anything to do with it, but
he himself has said that he's not going to be back in the weeds of it, but then he seems to have sort of
maybe it's broad strokes. Maybe it's just like, hey, I kind of think this would work, but at the same time, he's the chairman of the company, right?
The chairman of the company, he'll get final say on everything, but it does. I'm not surprised, as Wade Keller also knows, that it's based off self-interest that they were getting a better push. That's just how it goes. You've seen a lot of people since Triple H took over getting a push that weren't getting a push under Vince. So no doubt there's
we saw names come straight back that Vince had, under Vince's regime, had been unceremoniously booted.
So there'll be folk going, well, that was my spot.
So
it's one of these things. It's one of these things that's just going to happen.
Well, looking ahead to next week's SmackDown, last night's SmackDown set up a big debut for next week, and it's an NXT fan favorite. It's Grayson Waller with his segment, The Grayson Waller Effect. Now, in a backstage segment, Waller approached Adam Pearce and suggested that the debut episode of The Grayson Waller Effect takes place next week, and he'll welcome the winner of the SmackDown bracket of the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament, AJ Styles. He also said that SmackDown should be thanking and congratulating... people should be congratulating SmackDown for signing him.
Yes,
not congratulating him for getting signed to SmackDown.
No, I completely agree with Grayson Waller. He's absolutely fantastic.
He's so good, isn't he?
The stuff in NXT that he's done for the past year and a half, I think he's been the one that him and Carmelo Hayes particularly, the ones that have shined most in NXT and NXT 2.0. The Grayson Waller Effect is a really, really fun talk show segment. If you've not seen it, he also streams live on Instagram while he's doing it, and there's so it's worth actually watching it on that too. But it's really good fun. I'm excited
to get that engagement, man.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to see what AJ Styles, how he appears on it, because in NXT, it was big characters that were somewhat over the top.
Yeah, but AJ's really good with character stuff. I think people forget, AJ can really lean into it. He can do a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm excited
I think this is going to maybe be quite nice.
It should be good fun.
Maybe it'll evolve into a little match.
I would love to see
Waller versus Styles immediately.
Well, that's the thing. We actually saw Grayson Waller and AJ Styles have a feud about a year ago. The AJ went down to NXT and had a match with Waller.
Now you get the return here.
Hopefully, this might reignite that feud. And that maybe alludes a little speculation from me here as to who can win that tournament match at Night of Champions. If AJ and Grayson Waller maybe going a little feud of themselves.
Well, moving over to the other side of the fence now in the States. This one comes from the Wrestling Observer. It concerns AEW star Matt Jackson, who is currently recovering from a partially torn bicep. But it's gone quicker than expected, as seen by the stuff he's been doing on TV. The report notes that he was actually cleared this week, which is a few weeks ahead of schedule, and that he was seen bumping and running the ropes prior to this week's Dynamite. So it sounds like he's getting ready to get back into the ring.
Yeah.
Things are lining up. I mean, it's not out of the ordinary to see wrestlers bounce back from injuries a lot quicker. I figured that, you know, quite a lot of injury timescales are quite conservative, maybe. They're quite like, hey, it can take up to this long. But at the same time, I mean, pro wrestlers are in incredible shape. You know, they're constantly training, and they have very, very quick returns from time to time. So all the best to him.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we've got Double or Nothing in 2 weeks. It's great. That one weekend with Night of Champions, the NXT show, and Double or Nothing is going to be chaotic. So maybe we'll actually see Matt Jackson back in action at Double or Nothing. I wouldn't rule out like Anarchy in the Arena or something like that, or Blood and Guts,
where it's maybe a little bit more freeform.
Yeah, and he can sort of, as much as it might look brutal, he can sort of hold back and protect himself just that little bit. We've seen the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite have quite a lot of, you know, a lot of friction, a lot of tension. So hopefully Matt Jackson will be back in the ring for that. Well, fingers crossed.
Well, fingers crossed. But either way, he's going to be a get for ratings.
Oh,
for sure. But moving on to somebody who has been sort of rumored to be in and around the AEW sphere recently. Somebody who's the hottest free agent in all of wrestling right now. Kota Ibushi. This one comes from Dark Puroresu Flosion, and they're reporting that Kota Ibushi has brought up to them that he's apparently had an offer from New Japan that's in a good place. Now, Kota and New Japan had a bit of a falling out over personal matters over, you know, quite a lot of things went into it.
There's a lot of things, yeah.
But essentially, it looked for the world to be that, you know, Kota Ibushi and New Japan would potentially done, that Kota would be coming to the States, maybe going to AEW, maybe opening up a wrestling school, and there was kind of a lot of rumor, a lot of things going on around it. WWE were reportedly interested at one point. But the fact that New Japan have come back with a good offer suggests, I mean, they've finally come to their senses a bit, because how can you let Kota Ibushi slip through your fingers? Exactly.
You don't just give up Kota Ibushi, one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's baffling.
But Dark Pro Wrestling Flosion are also saying they're also noting that people shouldn't rule out a return to New Japan, as he's apparently resolved his issues with a good chunk of people from the promotion. So if it is water under the bridge, New Japan could make him, just put him right back at the top again. It would be
a big get for the company. As someone who I think, for specifically also for a Western audience, brings eyes to the product, because he's so well known, and so people know the history, like for example between him and Kenny Omega, so like they know who Kota Ibushi is. They'll likely that might be their entry.
The only place you can see him, that's the
exactly
thing, so.
It would also for sure make Forbidden Door very, very exciting, because we know that he'd be in New Japan when they go head to head with AEW, and hopefully we'll see something with Kenny Omega. Give us it, Tony. Give us it.
All in.
Oh yes,
all in. That'd be quite nice. But on the point of All In and international pay-per-views, or on the other side of the fence where we're going to premium live events, WWE are apparently planning more international shows following, the mammoth response that Backlash got.
Insane.
That was,
I loved that whole show.
It was nuts. It was possibly the best wrestling crowd I've ever seen in my life.
Carlito got a Stone Cold Pop.
Savio Vega got a Stone Cold Pop.
He got the biggest. Yeah, like it's insane.
Savio Vega.
Yeah, one of the greatest of the Bone Street
crew. By the way,
crew.
Tom spoke to. It's up now. You can go watch it. It's honestly like the fact that he was willing to talk to us straight away afterwards. He's got a lot of good things to say about it and his experience as a Backlash. But this one comes from Dave Meltzer. Reporting in the Wrestling Observer that WWE hosting another premium live event internationally has now become more serious, specifically in Australia. This comes after Fightful Select reported that WWE had spoken with reps in Australia to gauge the interest of a potential PLE. Now, this also comes quite hot off the news that Becky Lynch was apparently internally campaigning for a mammoth show in Ireland. Ireland has a lot of large venues that I think WWE could 100% fill. It's not as if it's millions of miles away from people coming from the UK.
A massive crop of Irish talent that you could market the entire show around, and it makes sense, and you would get a lot of traffic from the UK, you'd get Europe as well.
And if you can get Endeavour to send like Dog the Bounty Hunter after him, track him down, tie him up, throw him into the back of a Jeep, you can maybe get McGregor.
Exactly, that's exactly it. They would get McGregor on the show.
That Dog the Bounty Hunter has to get him. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for an Australian premium live event.
I think we saw the Super Showdown at the MCG, right? And that was huge. The response to that was great. It sold a hell of a lot of tickets. Australia is a pretty underserved market because of where it is. You know, it's quite hard for touring operations to get out there quite as frequently as they'd like to. It's kind of, I feel like the UK, it's like a really rabid fan base that barely gets any sort of crumbs thrown their way.
Yeah, they don't get that many live events or shows as such.
So I think that it's another one where the crowd's surely just going to be absolutely nuclear for it.
It is going to be nuclear for Rhea Ripley.
If
they do a show there, Rhea Ripley, Grayson Waller, and Indy Hartwell will all get massive, massive pops, and I really want to see that because Puerto Rico was rabid, and I can't wait to see Australia rabid if they get a show.
Well, we're closing out with some SmackDown-related news. This one comes from PW Insider Elite, and it's revealed that WWE's internal depth chart for SmackDown has been sort of gently leaked, and it reveals who the company views as the top heels and top faces of the blue brand following the WWE draft. Now, on the babyface side of things, WWE sees Edge as number 1, Bobby Lashley as number 2, AJ as number 3, Sheamus as number 4, Rey as number 5, and Santos Escobar is number 6. They're the top faces. Roman Reigns is top heel, followed by Solo Sikoa, Austin Theory, Karrion Kross, LA Knight, and Grayson Waller. Which that's just big, bright, flashing lights saying big, huge, amazing things ahead. I can't wait. The report has also noted, though, that unlike previous drafts, free agents are not currently internally assigned to either show. So it's not like they've gone, okay, we got like however many free agents, we're going to carve them up. These ones are going there, but we're not going to announce it yet. It's apparently just very freeform. They're waiting to kind of just let creative develop, and when there's a natural jumping on point, they can then put the talent into the roles.
It makes sense in terms of keeping that free agent branding, which I think a lot of people have heavily criticized and been like, it doesn't make much sense. But if they do it like this, where it really is a case of so-and-so can show up wherever for like 2-3 weeks, or they sign a temporary contract with SmackDown to exclusively appear on that show. But as for the list of the top heels and faces, I'm really not surprised that they view like your Edges, your Bobby Lashley's, Edges as your top faces. Of course, Roman and Solo, top heels. Solo being number 2 though.
Yeah, well, I mean, after last night,
not surprised.
The division feels like it's growing even larger.
Yeah. But with Reigns being away most of the time, that establishes Solo Sikoa as the top guy on SmackDown as a heel, which for someone who was only called up a year ago,
it's mammoth.
That's insane.
It's monumental.
He's such a good talent. But he's such a future ahead of him.
I think with the free agency thing, as you said, the freeform aspect's pretty cool. It means that talent can sort of just work both shows until something sticks.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe they get into a feud and then that's it naturally. Hey, you're on Raw now. But I quite like that they haven't just divvied it up and went, we'll sort something.
Here's the rosters.
So that's it for your second dose of lovely bumper weekend wrestling news. You can check out Graded for SmackDown, which is up on the channel right now. But other than that, we've got a lot of content coming out this weekend, so just keep your eyes peeled. Keep it here with us at Cultaholic Wrestling. And if we don't see you again later in the day, have a lovely weekend.